Thank you for joining me on the show today. This is the Now Talks, a collection of inspiring personal stories and leadership lessons from some of the world's most iconic leaders. It is the weekly podcast for women in leadership, brought to you by Nations of Women. My name is Dr. Tina Allton, and I'm your host for today and the coming weeks. I don't know about you, but have you ever, come to a point in your life where the only way through is courage? So I was reading a book today, and it was talking about be of good courage, be strong and of good courage. And I had to pause for a moment and think, what exactly is courage? What does it take for us as leaders to find courage? What steals our courage? What gives us courage? How can you be strong and of good courage at the same time? When often, when you really need to be courageous, is time when you're probably not feeling very strong or at your strongest. Is that right? Have you ever experienced that? I actually find that in our life and in the general way of life or principles of life. At every point where you need courage is at the point where you need strength. You're not feeling your strongest. You're probably feeling weak. And that's why you need to find the courage. So, how then can we be admonished or encouraged that be strong and of good courage? Wow, you need to have both. So I just want to, share with you some thinking, few thoughts on courage, strength, especially in our world right now. There's so much happening. There is an abundance of fear everywhere you look, an abundance of uncertainty everywhere you look. But as leaders, we have to be strong and of good courage. Now, I was in Cape Town sometime last year with a group of leaders, and actually, the theme for our gathering was courageous leadership, a call for courageous leadership. And oh my goodness, did I need a lot of courage myself personally to be in that room? Yes. Why is that? The first key that I learned, from my experience in Cape Town, but also experience as a leader. I mean, I've been running my own businesses with my husband. This year will be 23 years. And, both bricks and mortar business, service based business, and Nations of Women doing other things. I can 100% tell you that I've had to find courage so many times that I can think of. And so the reason why, I guess, if I go back to the story in Cape Town, where it was like, okay, Tina, you need to find all the courage you need, is because courage begins always with an inward battle. Courage isn't always available to you, isn't always like there, like, a cup of coffee or a cup of tea that you can just reach out and make yourself one, or a t-shirt that you can reach out and put it on, right? And it also isn't the absence of fear. It is when you're actually afraid, but then you do it anyway. It's being afraid and yet still knowing that as leaders, our primary responsibility is that of being reliable, is being one that our team can look up to, rely on us, like accountable. There's so many things that we have to do as leaders, but as leaders, we have to dig deep And anytime you find that you're scrambling for courage, it means that there is an inside battle that is going on, where there is some aspect of what it is that you have to do that you might be afraid, you might be out of your league, it might be over your head, whatever, or new territory, whatever it is, but you have to do it afraid anyway. And um, how did I find my courage? It was because I knew that I was coming. I had already finished one season and that I have come into a new season. And oftentimes, that is what I find, can cause a leader to wobble, is when you've stepped into a new season. A new season isn't always something you're, familiar with. It's not what you are, already accustomed to. It does require a whole different you, right? It does require a whole different you to step into that new season, to thrive in that new season, to be effective, impactful in that new season. And so, personally, I know that whenever part of my indicators is whenever I'm stepping into a new season, that wow, okay, I've got to find a bit more courage for this, right? I've got to find a bit more courage. And as a woman of faith, it's always, going back to God, because I believe God is way bigger than me. And so I always go back to God and say, God, I need your courage. I need your strength. So I want you to, take a pause for a moment and think, what are your indicators? At what point, at what junctions do you find that you are in need of courage and strength? And make a mark of that. Put that in your journal and begin to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. And so you find that, okay, I know I'm going into a new season. Then I look at who is in my life. Who is in my life that I can lean on, right? Because we all need the shoulders of those who have gone ahead of us to stand on. We need a bridge, and it's usually those who've gone ahead of us. So you have to look at who is in your life that you can lean on in this new season in order to find some courage and some strength. But remember, courage always begins with that inward battle, but you don't have to fight it alone. The second thing is courage is making things right, not just smoothing them over, right? Courage always means that, okay, something, might not be as it is, right? So you're going to have to sort it out or fix it. Maybe it might be your team, it might be your relationship, it might be with your children, your spouse, your partner, whatever it is, it might be with your suppliers. Um, it's just one of those things that um when you're not comfortable, right, when you're in a place of discomfort or a place of challenge or a place of controversy, it does require a lot of courage. And I love this quote by Martin um, Luther King Jr. He said that the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but it's where he stands at the times of challenge and controversy. So when you are standing in a time of great challenge, time of great need, time of great controversy, that is how you really come to know how courageous you are or how strong you are. So remember that your strength and your courage is measured not in the times when you're comfortable, but it's in the times when you are greatly, greatly uncomfortable, right? And again, it goes back to who is in your life. I can't emphasize the importance of having a mentor in your life. I mean, my first mentor was my grandmother. And I gotta tell you the story. And this woman saw me well before I could even, have the slightest idea of who I was called to be, right? And that's exactly what you get from mentorship. One of the greatest rewards of having a mentor is that they see who you are long before you've even become the woman or the man that you're called to be. Number three, courage in a leader inspires commitment. And I think that's very, very true. Whenever we've seen, a leader who has taken a courageous step, does that inspire something in you? Does that stir something in you? I know it does. I know it absolutely does. We can say the same, for our kids, for example, when you're teaching them to walk or when a baby starts to walk, right? They get up and they fall down. And what do we do as adults? We get up and we begin to, we bend our backs and, or we kneel down, we begin to, take small steps that come on, and for that child, it's seeing your courageousness that inspires that strength and that courage in them to keep going. And how many steps will they take? Maybe 5 steps. And there is such great excitement. It's like, wow, yes, you did it, right? And it's the same thing for us as leaders that when we take those steps, when we take those courageous steps, it inspires other people to commit maybe to their own causes, maybe to recommit to themselves, or to commit to whatever it is that they need to do. Because I don't know who you're responsible for, but every leader is just responsible for somebody. And so, how courageous you are ultimately inspires a new lease of life, a new inspiration, a new commitment into the people that are around you and the people that you're called to serve. Right. And I think this was a quote by a guy called Billy Graham, and he talks about, when somebody brave takes a stand, it makes the spine of other people, straighten up, right? And what does that mean? It means that when I see that you're bold and you're taking that courageous step, you know what? There is something that gets stirred in me that makes me also feel that, yes, I can also do it, right? Often you hear stories of people saying, I was this, but you know what? I am now doing this. And what do you think? Wow, if you can do it, then I can do it, right? Exactly. Finally, your life will expand in proportion in the size of your courage, right? And it's the same as when we think about, look, we're each given, a faith. We're each given we receive according to the measure of our faith. And so your life expands in proportion to your courage. The more courageous you are, the more opportunities you're going to have in your way, the more risk you're going to take, the more steps you're going to take, the further you're going to get. And you just can't lead well without bravely, and lead effectively if you're afraid to stretch. Courage requires you to stretch. Courage requires you to move forward. Courage requires you to break some glass ceilings, to expand your borders, to move from where you are, to come out of your comfort zone and into a new territory, a new zone, way beyond where you're called to be. Right? So it's like when you continue to be comfortable, right? I think you know what I'm going to say. There is no joy, there is no reward in your comfort zone. There is absolutely no reward in staying in your comfort zone. And so to be an effective leader, you do you do want to basically stretch yourself. Now then, you can think about this, and I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your thoughts? Some ways in which you can really find courage and strength. I don't know, perhaps it might be a decision you have to make. It might be a new opportunity you're looking at. It doesn't matter what it is, right? It could be a decision that you have to make. It doesn't matter what it is. But what I know is that if you don't stretch and if you don't make that move out of your comfort zone, you're just going to stay where you are and you're not going to be effective in your leadership. So, how can you find strength? And how can you be courageous? How can you be, you know, strong and of good courage? The number one thing I shared with you is always about who is in your world, who's your inner circle, right? Who's your mentor? Because you can always, I know I do this all the time. I always go back to my mentors and say, I'm scared, right? I'm scared. I know I'm meant to be doing this, but I'm scared. And you know what? They make a safe room for me to share all my fears, whatever it is. And they help me come out of that comfort zone and stretch myself into the new zone. And here are just a few ways in which I keep my mind strong and keep myself going courageously for as long as possible. Number one is, prioritizing. I prioritize what's important, what's urgent, what's not urgent, what's important, what's not important. Priorities help me to know, am I on course, am I not on course, because sometimes you can look at an opportunity, you can come to a place that you have to tackle something. It's like, okay, I've got to be really, really courageous here. But if it's not really, what you're meant to be doing, or where you're meant to be, then no amount of courage is going to produce any fruit, right? So priorities, and follow the priorities. Discipline in your lifestyle. I understand what I'm called for, what I'm created to do, right? And so you stay disciplined in your lifestyle, you stay disciplined to that goal. And you have to challenge your excuses, because sometimes, when you have to be courageous, guess what? You will make excuses, and you have to challenge those excuses. If you don't challenge those excuses, the fear or whatever it is that it's making you not feel courageous enough will take over. So challenge those excuses and stay focused. Stay focused. Stay in your lane. When you stay in your lane, you understand the weight of what it is you're called to carry. And therefore, whenever you need that courage, whenever you need that dose of courage, because you already know what your assignment is, it becomes that little bit more easier, that little bit more less scary, that little bit more possible. And before you know it, bit by bit by bit by bit, right, you are able to make that step forward. So to recap, every leader needs to be strong and of good courage. You do need it. It's a commandment. It is one of the number one tools you need to have in your toolbox as a leader, whether you like it or you don't like it. And number one way to be strong and courageous as a leader is don't fight it. Understand that courage is an inward battle. It would come anyway. But the fact that it's there doesn't mean that, it's that there's no fear, right? It is still doing what you're probably afraid of, but facing your fears anyway. And courage requires that you make things right at the right time, right? Listen to last week. I shared about the importance of doing the right things at the right time. Timing is everything. Anybody that plays sports, whether it's boxing, football, basketball, baseball. Timing is everything. My son plays basketball, and particularly basketball, timing is absolutely everything, right? Um, Courage inspires commitment from other people. Courage stirs other people on, and your life will expand and be hugely enriched in direct proportion to the size of your courage. So remember to build a very, very, very big, 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 big basket, or a big whatever it is, of courage. And remember that there definitely will be times where you would be truly courageous. There'll be times where you're going to need to lean on somebody else in order to find your courage. But no matter what, remember that you are called to be strong and of good courage. And let me know if there's anything you'd like to add to this. What are some of your strategies when you need courage, when you need to be strong and of good courage? What are some of your strategies that you've developed? Share that with us. Let us know. Anyway, have a wonderful week, and I will come your way again next week. Take care. Bye-bye. And that's all for this week. You've been listening to Dr. Tina Allton with the Now Talks, the weekly podcast for women in leadership, brought to you by Nations of Women. All that remains is for me to say have a fantastic week, stay safe, and reach out if you need any help now at nationsofwomen.com. Until next time, enjoy the pursuit of your potential, and remember, now is your time.